Say something nice. Dark water. Now, I know that normally whenever I talk about episodes of Doctor Who in general, I lump together two-parters as a single story, and that's also how I was doing Overdue Doctor Who Review. For Take 2 Doctor Who Review, I am actually going to address them as separate entities because that's how I talked about them in the initial reviews of all of these things. So it felt like the best way to deal with them again. So while I'll probably lump them together at the end of this when I rank the episodes of this series, for each episode you are going to get an individual video. And this is the first half of the two-parter that closes out Series 8. It's pretty good. There's some bits that don't quite work, but for the most part, it's pretty... Well, there's also a couple logical fails, but I mean, let's be completely honest. Most Doctor Who stories have some logic fails. The question is whether or not the story is strong enough to power through those logic fails or make it so you don't really care all that much. Like I pointed out in Blink, who the heck threw that rock at the beginning and why? Because I can't think of an answer that makes any possible sense in any way whatsoever. But ultimately, does it matter? Does it detract from my enjoyment of that episode? No. So whenever I point out these nitpick things, unless I specifically say it really kind of wrecks it for me, just take it as me going, oh, that's a little off. I don't mean to put a ton of weight on those. And that's going to be the case here when I point out a couple of logic fails. If it's something deeper than that, I will say so. But there's a bit going on here. So we have the death of Danny Pink, the standoff between Clara and the Doctor at the volcano, the explanation of the Nethersphere, the reveal of who Missy is, the reveal of the Cybermen. There's a lot going on. And it moves at a pretty good clip to actually get it all in. I think normally this would annoy me, but I think it helps that the episode is as segmented as it is. By that I mean, rather than trying to juggle all these things at the same time, it takes them one piece at a time. Danny's dead. That's the first opening bit. That is isolated. So now what follows off of that? Clara and the Doctor at the volcano because of her, well, I was going to say dealing with her grief. It is unable to deal with her grief. And then we move on to the Nethersphere and get our initial explanation of that, which is kind of a payoff to something that's been teased across the series. We get 3W. You know, it locks off each bit before moving on to the next in a way that makes it fairly easy to follow despite how much is being done in one episode. If I were to look out on paper how many different major things are going on in this episode, I would think this is too much. You can't do this all in one episode, but it works, and it gets away with it because it is sure to tie off the first thing before going on to the next. So it's well structured, all things considered. So some of the things that I really like. First off, props to this thing because I paid attention during the next time on Doctor Who at the end of the previous episode, which did not reveal the Cybermen, which was to my memory. Now, also to my memory, the marketing, like not the next time on Doctor Who, but like BBC marketing in the lead up to the finale, did reveal the Cybermen and boo on them. But if you manage to avoid the marketing, that moment, that reveal of the two doors closed, well, first of all, you see the 3W logo, which is the circle with the smaller circle. And it's, you don't think much of it. And then you see the two doors close, and you see those things side by side, and you hear the musical sting for the Cybermen, and you realize, oh, crap, it is great. It's a great moment. I didn't know that they were in this when I watched it the first time, so that moment got me. Watching it again, moment got me again. Love it. It is fantastic. So that's really good. The reveal of Missy I've talked about before in my list of top 10 Doctor Who twists. Although in hindsight, part of me thinks I maybe should have, for that list, swapped that out with the Sacha Dhawan master reveal. I don't know. I'm not sure I stand by that inclusion over the other one. But anyways, moving on from that, I do still really like this reveal. I like the build-up. I like that, we get Missy, and there's been an ominousness to Missy, but like we haven't really known what her deal is. But we're getting so much now, like the fact that she just enjoys messing with people. And it's so clear early on, like she's just toying with him, but you don't know why. Not all of that works. Some of it does, some of it doesn't. Like the kiss. The kiss doesn't work unless you already know who Missy is. So that's a bit that works in hindsight. It's like, oh yeah, that's kind of awesome, and that tracks. But watching it in isolation for the first time, it just kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's weird, and it's the kind of moment you don't necessarily remember when you get the big reveal. You don't suddenly go back and go, oh, so the kiss, and like, it's a thing. Because there is so much distance between when that kiss happens and when the reveal happens, and a lot of very significant stuff happens in between. So like, that's a moment, for instance, that doesn't totally work. Missy messing with him does. Oh, and I've seen a lot of people complain about the whole, why didn't the Doctor like feel that this was a Time Lord or the Master right off? And like, well, they address that in one way, and then I have a headcanon for the rest of it. They kind of address that because it is established that when he puts his hand on her chest, he does feel two hearts, but he is either choosing to compartmentalize that because he's not in a position to deal with what that means right now, he's on another mission, or he doesn't quite know what that means, and he doesn't know how to process that. And so either one of those. But in addition, my headcanon, because people tend to cite David Tennant being all, if there were other Time Lords, I would feel them, and I don't. It feels like I'm alone. Or maybe it was Eccleston who said that. I think they both said something to that effect. The reason why I feel like that doesn't apply here is, the reason he would have felt that before is because he was the only Time Lord still around. Now, that meant that any other Time Lord would have been picked up by his radar. But at this point, Gallifrey's saved. Now, I mean, like, he hasn't found it again yet, but Gallifrey's saved. And he knows that. He's not the only Time Lord anymore, and so that sort of radar basically is going to have a lot less focus to it. At least that's my headcanon on that. Some people don't agree, whatever. I feel like it's a minor point. So, the whole thing with the Dark Water, it's both clever and contrived, because in-universe, there isn't really a reason to do that, as opposed to just have them in walled-off mausoleums, in coffins. There isn't a reason to have them on display in-universe, especially with this weird water that doesn't show the exterior shell, anything non-organic. There's really no reason to do that, other than the fact that it makes for an awesome reveal and a very cool way to hide the Cybermen in plain sight. And it is very good at that, but the in-universe reason as to why the Dark Water exists is like, I'm not sure I buy that. Okay, let's talk about the Don't Cremate Me. Now, that got a lot of people really upset, so far as I can tell, because I think, it's a concept that is terrifying. It's a legitimately horrific concept. It's been done in straight-up horror stories. Tales from the Crypt did an episode kind of like based on this idea. And Moffat seems to also have latched onto it because he kind of picked it up again with his Dracula. But I'm kind of okay with it. Now, granted, I haven't had, my kid doesn't watch Doctor Who, so I haven't had to, explain or deal with her being traumatized by that. So maybe some people have a different perspective if you've had to deal with that kind of thing. But for me, I watch it and go, yes, that's a horrifying idea, but all of it gets called into question in terms of its accuracy almost immediately. Because, we're looking at this piece of technology and the Doctor is sniffing a rat on this whole thing. So while it is a terrifying concept, I don't feel like the episode itself ever really goes in hard on the idea that that's actually what goes on. At least that's my read on it. Again, other folks, if you were legitimately disturbed by that, no, fair. It is a disturbing concept. let's talk a little bit about Danny Pink and how things sort of play out there. I have mixed feelings about his death and the way that plays out for a couple of reasons. The first is that I appreciate the suddenness of it, but at the same time, it doesn't quite land as well as it should. And thinking about it, I think sudden, unexpected deaths are really hard to do in dramatic television. Because on the one hand, it is true to life. Sometimes people die for absolutely no reason and at points in time where it's like, well, what the hell is that? Like Clara says, like, that's boring. How can that be the end of his life story? That's so boring. And that does happen. I think the problem with trying to milk drama out of that is it almost always comes off in one of two ways. It's either contrived and like you pulled that out of your butt just to milk drama, like just out of nowhere a character dies, what? Or it comes off as unintentionally comedic. That's where you get things like Meet Joe Black and that rather infamous clip. But this whole thing of trying to do sudden deaths, sudden unheroic, unremarkable deaths for drama, I think it's just really hard to find a way to balance that, unless you're like basing the story around it, like say, spoiler alert for a very old book, like Bridge to Terabithia, where the entire latter half of the story is about dealing with that. So I'm not sure it works quite as well as it should. That said, it works better than most instances I've seen of this sort of thing being attempted seriously and dramatically. The issue for me, there's a couple of things. The first is, the whole thing opens with Clara getting ready to tell Danny the truth. And this is bad because it immediately throws into question their relationship. Because this means, and I meant to address this in the previous review, so let me sort of make up for that. This means that after the events of Flatline, where he heard her offer these ridiculous explanations for what he was hearing over the phone, including her crashing through a window, and he could clearly tell something was up, that they either never had a conversation about what the heck was going on, or she somehow talked her way out of it, which I have a hard time buying, because the few times we've seen her try and lie to Danny, she's really bad at it. So it means that like something's wrong with their relationship. And now it's kind of compounded, because in the Forest of the Night, they have these moments where Danny's like, look, I just want to know what's going on. Just don't lie to me. And it's very clear that she knows she is, but they open this episode treating it like they've never had this conversation before. I'm like, really? And it makes me question this relationship. Is it as strong and as valid as at least Clara is acting like it is? Because at the very least, you are deceptive as hell with him. And in addition to that, it's like, you guys suck at communication. Like, across the board. And he either is enabling your lying to him knowingly, or he's an idiot and believed you. Which I have a hard time buying, because Danny didn't strike me as that dumb.
How stupid do you think I am?
So that's a little bit of a problem. I do kind of appreciate that the doctor says, you know, you're a rage of chemicals, because, yeah, early love is a lot of hormone driven. I don't just mean that in like sex, but like, you know, endorphins and everything else. So I guess it helps a little to sort of acknowledge that that's going on. So the whole volcano key thing, I both like and I don't like. I mean, there's the standard logistical thing, which is you can't stand that close to lava. You can't. They're dead already. But, you know, also, it's not real. It's a dream state. Although, seriously, why does the doctor have those patches from gridlock? I buy that the doctor keeps certain souvenirs or keeps hold of things that he thinks are too dangerous to be anywhere else. But these were something being mass-produced. And I know he told them to, like, shut it down.
And this street is closing. Tonight!
But theoretically, these could be made at any point again, so it's not like he's got the only ones in existence, or he can't be certain that he does. And he was so disgusted by what these things were, why would he keep that around? And it's not like it's a unique item. Like I said, this was a mass-produced thing, but he just has them? And he told Clara about them? That he has them? What? No. I mean, on one hand, it's a nifty callback to Gridlock, and I kind of appreciate that, but the minute I stop and think about it, it's like, he shouldn't have those. I can't think of any reason why the Doctor would keep those. He was horrified by them, on principle. So, that's one of those things that doesn't ruin the episode for me, but it does make me go, Couple of other things that I like. I do like during that argument at the volcano, which, while part of me questions, since I'm questioning the viability of Danny and Clara as a couple, it does bring some doubt to the level that she's taking this to. Like, is it worth it? Have they earned her being this committed, especially when she wasn't even being honest with him? But, then again, you don't have to be in a good relationship to be super committed to it. That's a thing that happens. But anyways, one of the things that I do really like in that scene is the Doctor saying why he can't save Danny. And I like that because I was half expecting, because I couldn't remember the specifics, I was half expecting him to just do, I can only change some things, I can't change others, and to leave it at that. Because that feels like usually what the Doctor does. In this case, I like that he says, that he cites the specific circumstances as to why he can't fix it.
If I change the events that brought you here, you will never come here and ask me to change those events. Paradox loop.
And we know from past, causing paradoxes is a big problem with episodes like Father's Day and with the paradox machine in The Sound of Drums and Last of the Time Lords. So we know paradoxes are hugely problematic. So I like that that is cited specifically instead of it just being the general, well, I just can't. Not to say that I am not okay with the Doctor just saying that in most instances, but she's so committed here, like, I like that he offered up more than just I can't. So that was good. I also really like towards the end where Clara is talking with Danny through the white noise, I guess, and she is trying to get him to say something to confirm that it's him. And, the guy's befuddled as heck. He just had an encounter with the young boy that he accidentally killed while he was a soldier. And he's obviously just really out of sorts, and he can't think of anything initially. He just keeps saying, I love you, and she just gets frustrated because, like, anybody could say that. You saying that doesn't mean you're Danny. You say you love me one more time, and I'm disconnecting from this and walking away. And there's this pause, and Danny says,
I love you.
Which is him saving her, because he was afraid, and I think given what we've seen Clara do, rightfully so, he was afraid that she would actually kill herself in order to try and reach him. And he just says, I love you, so that she will go through with her threat and disconnect the call and assume that it wasn't him. And I like that sacrifice from Danny. That was really good. I think that's about all I've got on this one. Obviously, I'll be talking much more about Missy's scheme and the Cybermen when we talk about Death in Heaven next week. The admin guy in the Nethersphere. I really like him. I always kind of liked these, big sort of spiritual questions or places or realms being presided over just by, it's bureaucracy. It's just paperwork. I've always kind of liked that idea, and I like it when it comes up in things, how this kind of deals with it, or when it comes up in things like Beetlejuice or The Good Place. I always rather enjoyed that, so I like him, and I like his use and characterization quite a bit. But that's Dark Water. You rewatched it lately? What'd you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something on down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Bunch of stuff to do. You probably know what it is. Like, share, subscribe, all of which help with the algorithm, which at the time of recording seems to be starting to kick my ass again. But in addition to that, I also have a Patreon. It's kind of the big one. It is keeping the lights on at present. But you also don't have to do any of that, because at the end of the day, you're the council. I'm just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.